Hello and welcome to BioRules video lessons. Today we are going to be taking a look on the distribution of different organisms. Let's start with plants. So if we get a place with different conditions, like for example mountain with the slope going all the way to the sea, we are going to be having altitude variation, and along that altitude variation you probably had the experience that we see different species of plants occupying different altitudes. If you go to Campos Jordão, there will be pine trees. If you go to the sea by Ubatuba, there will be coconut trees. So different altitudes, different species. And why is that? Well, when you change the altitude, you change this vegetation, you change distribution, because you might change some factors. For example, maybe the light is different. Maybe you have the light's more filtered under in the bottom of the mountain, or less filtered on the top of the mountain. Or maybe you have different temperatures, and different temperatures might allow different species of plant to survive there. You may have different precipitation. By the way, we already saw in the biomes that temperature and precipitation are massive for the determination of a certain biome. We may have different intensity or frequency of winds. Okay, we have a different soil, maybe with different pH or different salinity or other mineral. And we may have a different distribution of herbivores. Depending on the herbivores we have, we might have different vegetations that are going to be growing there. So knowing some of these characteristics that may influence plants are kind of important. And animals also have distribution characteristics for each species. Okay, so if you get a forest, for example, you may have forests with different profile, different heights, and we might have different species of butterflies living in different areas of this forest. So animals also are going to be having different distribution according to certain characteristics. But for the animals, it's interesting if we can explain how they can have an influence. For example, the temperature might affect the distribution of a certain species, because the different animals might have different internal control of temperature. Animals that control the body temperature, for example, they might be able to live in broader temperature ranges. But animals that don't control the body temperature, they need to have a temperature in the environment that stays around what is the best temperature for them. So temperature is something that is going to be affecting animal distribution. Different temperatures, different enzyme activity, so they will work on different ways. Water availability as well. Some animals, they need lots and lots of water. Some animals can live with less water available, or water available once in a while. So water is also a factor. Breeding sites, place to build their nests, place to be able to lay their eggs, all those are factors that might influence. Breeding sites, for example, may be the plants that the animals lay their eggs. Butterflies lay eggs in certain species of plants. If the plant is over there, that site, then that species can live. Okay? Food supply is related to the plant that the caterpillars are going to be eating, but also to any other thing. So whatever the animal is going to be eating, the plants that they eat if they are herbivores, or animals that they eat if they are predators, the food supply are also important factors for animal distribution. Okay? Territory, if they have a certain territory for them to survive or not. So all of these characteristics is interesting if you are capable of speculating why it would determine the animal distribution. Okay, basically to be able to explain how it works. Okay, here you have some examples. In a rocky shore, animals distribute differently. So sea stars, they tend to be more into the bottom, no, to the inside part of the water, while you have some limpets and some barnacles that are capable of living more away from the water, in the place that gets water only in the high tide. So different space there might have different animals. Here we see that we have different distribution of animals, where they are abundant, where they are frequent, occasional, or very rare. So this is the place that we have in a rocky shore the distribution of certain animals. And this here was made using a transect. So what is a transect? A transect is a method for us to try to determine the abundance of some organisms and try to relate that to some characteristics. For example, here we have a mountain slope and we have pine trees. And if we make a transect, we are going to try to associate one characteristic of this slope, like altitude, or in this case here, the temperature, because the higher you are, colder it tends to get. So we try to associate it. And how do we do that? In this case, we are going to be sampling organisms in different conditions. So I'll go there, I'll sample the population, or in this case here, I'll sample the density of the population along the gradient of that factor. So I'll go from 0 degrees Celsius to 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 37, and 40 degrees Celsius. So when I do that, now I just try to see what is the population and I try to correlate with that factor. So let's try to do that in here. At 0 degrees Celsius, there are no animals. I didn't even put here, I don't remember now why I didn't put, I could have put a 0 over there. But at 5 degrees Celsius, I have lots of pine trees. Then at 10 degrees Celsius, I have 2 pine trees. Now it was 3, now I have 2. And then at 15, I also have 2. And then at 20, there is 1. At 25, there is 0, but no, at 30, there is 1. 35, there is 0. And 40, there is 1 over there. If we take a look on this, we see that there is a correlation. In this example, from 5 degrees Celsius on, the higher the temperature, the smaller the pine trees density. So you can see that there is quite a correlation over there. We did this because we did a transect. Basically, it's sampling along a gradient of one characteristics. Okay? Very good. Having said that, let's take a look on the concept of niche. Okay? The definition of niche is the n-dimensional use of resources. Okay? This might be a little bit complicated now, but after we finish looking here at examples, this might be a little bit more concrete. So, n-dimensional use of resource. So let's take a look on the use of a certain resource by some bird species. There is a tree over there, okay, and different bird species might like to live on trees at different heights. Here, for example, the purple and the yellow birds, they like to live it in a lower part of the tree, while the blue and the orange one have evolved to live in a higher portion of the tree. So if I separate the high on tree that those species live, I would say that the blue and the orange, they live from around 15 meters to 30 meters, while the purple and the yellow live from around 5 meters to 15 meters. So they have a different use of the high on the tree. So there they are. Blue birds and orange birds, they live between 15 and 30, and the purple birds and the yellow birds, they live down there on the tree from 5 to 15 meters high. Okay, so in terms of high on the tree, of this one dimension of the use of resource, blue and orange occupy from 15 to 30 niche, while the purple and the yellow occupy the 5 to 15 meters niche. So the niche here for this one dimension, the height on the tree, is different for those two and those two over here. So this is one idea of the niche. However, species occupying the same niche, they will fight. Okay, oh, this is my place, no, this is my place, and they eventually may end up outcompeting the other species. So the blue and the orange here, if they have to live the same place, and if they use exactly the same resources, there is probably not going to be enough resources for both of them. So in that case, they might outcompete each other. But wait, that might not be the case here, because if they might outcompete each other, so they can live together. No, the blue and the orange one will get excluded. The same will happen for the purple and the yellow. Now, what happens if we put another dimension into this niche? Okay, so we had the altitude on the tree, how high on the tree this species live as one dimension of the niche. And now we have the distance to the river, the distance to the source of water. So apparently the blue and the yellow, they like to live away from the river, and the orange and the purple, they like to live closest to the river. And the question is, can these forest species now live in the same forest? Can they share this forest? So take a look on the actual space that's being occupied by the blue species. They occupy the space that's from 50 to 100 meters away from water and 15 to 30 meters high on the tree. While the orange, although it occupies the same high on the tree, 15 to 30 meters, they occupy a different distance to the river. And actually what we see here is that those forest species now, they don't occupy the same niche anymore. They occupy the same part of the niche. So the blue and the yellow occupy the same part of the niche in relation to the distance to the river, the same dimension, but they don't occupy the same dimension on the high on the tree. So these forest species now, they have different niches, because the niche here is the use of these two dimensions. But actually, I can put more dimensions, right? They can occupy the same now, but no. Bluebirds, they will live far from the river, high on the trees. Yellow, far from the river, down on the trees. The purple, close to the river, down on the trees. The orange, close to the river, up on the trees. So these species now, they don't occupy the same niche anymore. But what if I put another dimension? If I put another dimension, in this case here, the seed size, the size of the seed, the food that those seeding birds are going to be eating, now I can have even one dimension more of the niche, so that means that I can have more species. Now, I can have a dark purple living in the same two dimensions as the yellow, the distance to the river and the height, but they eat different food. So they're not going to be totally competing with each other anymore, so they might be able to survive in the same place. So in this example here, now the niche have 3 dimensions. And as I said before, the definition of the niche is the n dimensions use of resource. The use of resource in every single possible dimension of the niche. Okay? So that's the idea. Now, get a little bit deeper on the idea. Let's talk about fundamental niche and realized niche. Okay, fundamental niche is a niche that a species may be able to occupy when they are not being outcompeted by other species. So I will give an example here with our cute yellow bird. There are different seed sizes, and the yellow bird have a beak of a size that allows them to eat different size of seeds. Okay, seeds can vary from very tiny to very big, but the yellow bird cannot eat them all. Because if you have a very strong, powerful beak capable of eating big seeds, you're not going to be delicate enough to be able to get and handle the small seeds. So actually, in this example here, the yellow bird has a medium-sized beak that allows them to eat very well the medium-sized seeds. Now, bigger seeds, they are too tough for them to break. They end up not being able to break them at all, like here. And tiny seeds might be too small for them to be able to handle. So they don't manage to handle and get them and crack them in half. So actually, in this example, the fundamental niche of the species says that they can eat from almost very small seeds to almost very large seeds. Okay, obviously, they can eat better the medium-sized seeds. So these medium-sized seeds here are the optimum, the best size that they can eat. But they can eat all the way from here to here. So this is the fundamental niche of this species. If I put this here in proportion, it would look something like that. The fundamental niche in terms of seed size, so for one dimension of the yellow bird. Okay, all the other dimensions of the niche I'm not going to put here, otherwise things get very complicated. Now, what happens if I put another bird species? Now, this one have a more powerful beak capable of breaking larger seeds. So these 3 species, now the blue one really likes the large ones. They get the large ones very easily, while the yellow one struggles to get the large ones. It managed to get quite large ones, but they struggle. What will happen here is that the blue ones will be able to eat the large ones before the yellow ones are capable of. So in that sense, the yellow one will be excluded from part of the niche, and the blue one will be excluded from the medium-sized part of the niche. Each of these birds end up exploiting the resources that are more favorable to their body, to their morphology, to what they have evolved better. So the blue niche now, although it had a fundamental niche that was much bigger, now it's narrowed by competition with the yellow birds. The same if I put another bird here with a tiny little beak. This tiny purple bird is not capable of cracking even medium seeds very efficiently, but they are very good in handling the small seeds. As a result, the fundamental niche of both birds are squeezed here. They are not capable of exploiting much far deep into what the other species are capable of exploiting. So this here brings us the idea of realized niche. So we are going to be comparing our fundamental and realized niche. The yellow here is the fundamental niche of the yellow bird, and the dashed line now is representing the realized niche of the bird. So fundamental niche, the niche that one species may occupy without competition. The yellow bird can eat small seeds, can eat big seeds, but if they have not been eaten by other species before. So in this case here, the solid line over there now is representing the realized niche, the niche that actually happens after competition. So it's a niche that have been squeezed because of competition. So it's the actual, realized, the real one. So this is the difference between fundamental and realized niches. Okay, just to illustrate you with a clear example, here we have Darwin finches. In the Galapagos Islands, we have these birds that are very related to each other, but each island might have different composition of these birds. And on the right here, we have seeding birds. Those three birds over there, they might occupy the same island, or they may live alone in an island. And to illustrate how this fundamental and realized niche even change the morphology of the animal itself, we have this example here. Those are those three species over there. The powerful beak one over here, the medium-sized beak over there, and the small-sized beak over there. And where they are together, we can see here that they have no large beaks, medium beaks, and small beaks. But if we take a look on this diagram over here on the right, which is a magnification of this here, we are going to see that when we don't have the more powerful one over here, the niche of these two species, the small beak one and the medium beak one, is actually a little bit wider. And in the place that these two species live alone, like here, there is an island that this species lives alone, and there's another island where this species here lives alone. They actually evolved to have a medium-sized beak to exploit better the medium-sized one over there. They are not splitting. So this is a demonstration of how species can have a potential niche. So this one here is actually capable of using seeds that go all the way from there, but actually when they are in the same place, they end up displaced to a certain size. Actually, this one here gets displaced to that size, while this one here that has get displaced to another size over there. So this is the idea of fundamental and realized niche, which brings us to the idea of competitive exclusion. So the yellow birds, they're happy living with a very wide fundamental niche in an island all for itself. And then a bird with a bigger beak arrives and ends up out-competing the yellow bird in the higher size of seeds part of the niche. And as well, a small beak bird, the purple one, arrived and ends up out-competing the yellow bird in the small seed size of the niche. So in this case here, the yellow bird have been out-competed in part of its fundamental niche by the blue on one side, by the purple on the other side. So the yellow bud have been competitively excluded from part of the niche. So this here brings us to the idea that two species cannot occupy the same niche. If they do, they are going to be excluded from part of the niche, if not altogether from the entire niche at all. Okay? So, competitive exclusion. If two species occupy exactly the same niche, one of them is excluded from part of the niche. Okay? More likely, one of them might even be extincted, because if they cannot compromise, okay, I will get the small seeds, you get the big seeds, one of them may even be excluded from the habitat at all. Oh no, you cannot live in this island. Okay? Which one is going to be get excluded? So the idea is that the species that is more capable to exploit the resource outcompetes the one that's less capable. So it has nothing to do with power, has nothing to do with speed, has to do with the one that's better adapted to use that resource. The better adapted to use the resource, no, the one that's not so well adapted get extincted. So the blue bird here is going to be outcompeting the yellow bird from part of the niche or from the entire niche at all. Okay? A few examples here. On the top, we have two paramecium populations when they are living separately. So this line here on the top is Paramecium aurelia living alone. Oh, look, they can grow and they get stable in a very high population. And this is Paramecium caudatum living alone. They grow and they get very stable. Yay, very good. But here on this that I'm representing with a black line over here is these two species when they are mixed together. Apparently, the Paramecium aurelia is not capable of growing the population so fast, and the Paramecium caudatum grows fast in the beginning, but then starts struggling with the other species, and its population reduces until it gets very small over there. So this is the idea of competition. Okay, here is how deep the species are living and how much they made of dry weight, how heavy they get. So the T. latifolia, when they are living separate, apparently have quite a wide range of niche that it can occupy, and this niche is not changed significantly. Actually, it's even a little bit wider over here when they are living together in the same place. But the T. angustifolia have a very wide niche going from -20 to +120 in water depth. But when they are living together, the T. angustifolia don't manage to live below the 20 or almost 20 centimeters deep. That means that from this part of the niche here, it has been excluded by competition with T. latifolia. Okay? Just to mention some interactions, as we mentioned competition, competition has a negative effect on both species. Wherever there's competition, both species, they suffer. Okay, one of them eventually might win, and if they entirely exclude the other, they know the competition stops because the other one gets extinction. But if there is competition, it's negative for both. Okay? Herbivory is positive for one, the herbivore, but it's negative for the other one, the plant that's being eaten. Okay? Predation, also, it's positive for the predator, it's negative for the prey. Okay, the one that's eaten, it will be negative, but for the entire population is also negative. When there is a predator, the relationship predator-prey allows for the predator to grow its population and makes for the prey to reduce its population. So it's negative for one and it's positive for the other. The same for parasitism. So parasitism is it's positive for one, positive for the parasite, it's negative for the other one. Usually the parasite don't kill the host, but reduces its resources, reduce the energy that they have, make its life more difficult, so it reduces its population as well. Okay, and finally, there is one relationship called mutualism, which is mutually beneficial for both of them. Examples: lichens. No, you have an algae and a fungus that live together, and that relationship is compulsory and mutual beneficial for both of them. The same for corals and zooxanthellae. Zooxanthellae are algae that live inside of coral, and the corals benefit from getting light being transformed into food for them, and the algae manage to have a solid and nice place to live in. So mutualism is beneficial for both of them, just to illustrate a few relationship between species: competition, herbivory, parasitism, predation, and mutualism. Okay, now we have a few questions here just to see how sharp you are into this topic. I hope you had fun. I see you in our next class.